First, we'll begin with Damodarastic prayers. Namam Ishvaram Satchit Anandarupam Lasat Kundalam Go Kule Prajamanam Yashoda Biolukala Davamanam Paramistam Atyanta To Drutya Gopya Rudantam Moha Nature Yugmam Vijantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satanga Netram Muhu Swasa Kampa Chire Kanka Kanta Stita Grivam Damo Jaram Bhakti Badam Iti Driksali Labhya Ananda Kunde Swagosham Nimajantam Akyapayantam Hari Eshita Geshu Bhaktar Jitatvam Puna Prema Tastam Shata Vritti Bande Padam Deva Moksham Namoksha Badimba Nachonyam Vreneham Pareshada Piha Idam Teva Purnata Gopala Balam Sara Memanyasya Virastam Kimanyai Idam Te Mukam Bojam Atyanta Nilai Vritam Kuntalai Snigta Raktaischa Gopya Mushumbitam Bimba Raktadaram Me Manasya Virastam Alam Lakshalabai Namo Deva Damoda Ananta Vishnu Prasida Prabho Dukkha Jalabdi Magnam Sripa Dristi Vrishyati Dinam Bhatanu Griha Nesham Mam Agyam Edyaksha Drishya Uvaratmajo Bhatta Murchai Vayatva Kwaya Mochito Bhakti Bhajao Krita Cha Tata Prema Bhaktim Swakame Priyachcha Namokshe Graho Mesti Damodareha Namaste Stu Damne Spuraditi Damne Kwari Odayata Vishvasya Damne Namo Radhikayai Twadiya Priyayai Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Radhikayai Twadiya Priyayai Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Radhikayai Twadiya Priyayai Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In our sequence, we'll take a look at the fourth verse of Damadarastic, which is advocating Vrindavan consciousness to the exclusion of everything else. Even the greatest benedictions, both conceivable and what is not conceivable by the human mind. Still, this prayer is going to assert that there's something that nothing else can ever replace. Om Agana Timirandasya, Gyananjana Shalakaya, Chakshun Militang Yena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Varam Deva Moksham Namoksha Vadimva, Nachanyam Vraneham Vareshada Piha, Idam Te Vapurnata Gopala Balam, Sara Me Manyasya Virastam Kimanya. The prayer is addressed to Deva. This is the name for Krishna, which can refer to someone who is divinely splendorous in effulgence and qualities. And it can also refer to someone who has such beautiful, splendorous sporting pastimes. So this prayer is very personal, just as the other prayers in Damodarastic are. Don't think that the verses that describe the Leela are the only true nectar. No, you have to understand what's going on in this fourth verse. It's a very personal prayer from the core of the heart, saying that, my dear Lord, you're able to give all kinds of blessings and benedictions. Once we start talking about Govardhan Puja, and we're going to especially focus on Indra and his, well, he's a special personality. We won't be able to get to the bottom of it in one session. I'm trying to decide whether we'll devote several sessions to the complexity of Indra, his ego, his false ego, and his great stature as the king of heavenly planets. So, this prayer, number 4, is listing the most significant benedictions someone could ever aspire for. So, please see that prayer, number 4, in that context. First of all, there's ordinary moksha, liberation from the material world into the impersonal Brahman. Now, of course, you know All of you know that Vaishnavas don't want that because although you may be free from the material energy, what do you do? Merge in the impersonal Brahman. There's no devotional service. Without devotional service, what is our life? Whether on this material planet Earth or in the impersonal Brahman. Therefore, the Vaishnava, the Bhakti Yogi says, without service, life is hell. In fact, as you know, and you've read in so many purports in Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur statement, Kaivalyam Narakayate, Kaivalya, merging into Brahman, liberation into Brahman is hell. So Vadam Deva Moksha. First of all, the first kind of liberation is mentioned. But not only that, but Moksha Vadim Va, Vimukti, special liberation. That means Vaikuntha. But this prayer is not wanting even Vaikuntha. But what else? Nachanyam Vraneham Vareshadapiha. Besides eternal life in Vaikuntha, and we've been speaking about the unlimited opulence of Vaikuntha, which is beyond Shivaloka. But what is beyond Vaikuntha? You can't really say in terms of time and space that something's beyond Vaikuntha because Vaikuntha is unlimited, perfect, and pure. But you can say beyond Vaikuntha in terms of intimacy. We've been talking about that. So here in this prayer, ordinary liberations rejected, and even vimukti, special liberation, is rejected. Now, is there something else that's being rejected? Yes. Beyond Vaikuntha, the acharyas point out, are the processes of devotional service, the 9 processes. You know, from 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj says that anyone who is executing the 9 processes of devotional service is the most learned person. Those 9 processes of devotional service can give you spiritual benedictions. Living on the same planet as the Supreme Lord, Salokya, Sarsti, sharing the opulences of the Supreme Lord, Samipya, being a awe and reverence associate of the Lord. So this prayer is saying, I don't even want those kind of spiritual benedictions that the 9 processes of devotional service can give. And remember, the 9 processes of devotional service are beyond Vaikuntha, so much so that the 4 Kumaras say that as long as they have the opportunity to execute hearing and chanting about Krishna, they don't mind being in hell. In other words, they say their location, their geographic location doesn't matter as long as they have the chance to execute the process of devotional service. So they're saying whether in Vaikuntha or hell, the most important thing for us is to execute hearing and chanting. So in this way, hearing and chanting especially, but the 9 processes of devotional service, all of them are beyond Vaikuntha. You know the famous verse where Krishna says he's located wherever his pure devotees are chanting his glories. Now, this prayer of the Dhammadarastic is not telling you to reject hearing and chanting about Krishna. It's saying there's something beyond the usual spiritual blessings that you can derive from hearing and chanting about Krishna. So, what is that? What's beyond mukti, liberation into impersonal Brahman, vimukti, liberation to Vaikuntha, and now you're saying you don't even want the boons of that derive from executing the 9 processes of bhakti. So what do you want? Idam teva purnata gopala balam. O Nata, O Lord, since you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, here's what I want. Gopala balam. Saramemayas yavarastam kimanya. May that form of Bal Gopal ever stay in my mind, ever reside in the core of my heart. I don't want anything else. Nothing else has any use for me. So Sanatan Goswami describing a possible response of Krishna is, well, all right, you don't want this, you don't want that, you don't want spiritual benedictions of Vaikuntha. How about this? You can have darshan of me as Lord Narayan. You can see me and talk to me. No, Bal Gopal only. I simply wish that this form of yours as Bal Gopal in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart. Nothing else has any value. So this is a very important turning point in the Damodarastic. You've been introduced to the Leela, and now you're being herded mercifully into the direction of the height of pure bhakti. I am not attracted to Krishna because of his opulence and power. I am attracted to Krishna as Bal Gopal and his Vrindavan pastimes. In fact, the reciter of the prayer is considering himself to be in Vrindavan. Here in Vrindavan, this is all we want. Certainly, this is all we want. Nachanyam Vrineham Vareshadapiha. Here, this is where we're at. And remember, consciousness dictates geographic location. So this is my consciousness. Therefore, here in Vrindavan, here, this is how we think. We don't want anything else. May that vision of Bal Gopal ever remain the core of our heart. Now, we've been discussing that actually Goloka Vrindavan and its projection, Gokula, Boma Vrindavan on earth, are very difficult to understand because of the apparent simplicity. We've been discussing how the residents of Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan, seem to be doing ordinary things. And one thing you'll have to become accustomed to if you plan on going to Goloka Vrindavan, if you have that hope, you got to get used to cows. The very name Goloka means the planet of the cows. And the residents of Goloka Vrindavan specialize in cow care, cow products. You have the gopis, you have the gopas, the young gopis and gopas, the older gopis and gopas. There's just lots of cows and when you talk about Goloka, you also have to talk about cowherd people. So get used to it. Sometimes we rightfully say that we protect cows in order to get the milk, which is necessary for the growth of the spiritual brain. But that's not the most important reason for protecting cows. The most important reason is simply that Krishna likes cows and we want to like Krishna. So, what Krishna likes, we like. Krishna is a cowherd boy. Gopala, Bal, Bal Gopal. That's the most important reason. Just like sometimes in talking to guests about vegetarianism, Prabhupada would object. We're not actually vegetarians. That's not we don't really object to meat eating because of the slaughter, although there's no doubt that's an extraordinary reason. But Prabhupada sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes wanted to point out we do what Krishna does because when you want to please someone, you do things the way that person likes. Otherwise, Krishna can eat anything. He can eat the whole universe. But he asks for just patram pushpam, palam toyam, leaf, fruit, flower, water. He doesn't ask for meat. So therefore we don't offer it. And we can't eat anything we don't offer, so we don't eat meat. The main reason is because we like what Krishna likes and we don't like what Krishna doesn't like to eat. Of course, that doesn't mean you cannot bring up the reasons of the horrible cruelty in animal slaughter. Yeah. But at least for our discussion now, we should understand that Krishna has pets, and his pets are not dogs and cats. His pets are not horses. His pets are cows. And he wants us to like cows and care for them. So when you offer your food so you can have prasad, you recite Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. Krishna is the protector of the cows and the brahmanas. But as Srila Prabhupada describes in one purport in Bhagavatam, Krishna actually likes the cows better than the brahmanas. So in this way, if you plan on going to Goloka Vrindavan, get used to cows. Now, there's also a material planet called Goloka. The acharyas point this out. This material planet, Goloka, is where Lord Brahma and other top devatas, top demigods, keep their cows. So now Indra, we're going after the Govardhan lifting has ended. I want you to focus on Indra and his pride, which actually becomes a form of madness. He's a complex personality. So he didn't stand a chance to offer an apology to Krishna. He knew it. I don't think we really appreciate how much a devastation, a nuclear bomb it was for Indra's ego to have Krishna lift Govardhan Hill. Krishna tells him that after Indra makes his presentation, we'll get to that later. Krishna actually tells him, I all right, you've revealed your heart to me about your massive pride problem. I'm going to reveal my heart to you. I lifted Govardhan Hill to demolish your pride. I did it. I've been trying to get my head around this pride in Indra. We shouldn't just point the finger at Indra, and we should look at ourselves. How such pride can bring about madness, even in a great personality like Indra. So Indra came to see Krishna. The site is what is now called Govinda Kund at the base of Govardhan Hill. Krishna arranged to be alone in order to preserve some remnant of Indra's ego, because Indra was devastated. And so when you're about to chastise a leader, it's best you don't do it in public because leaders generally can't handle that. So Krishna is sensitive. All right, Indra thinks he's big stuff. And he's so terrified, he's about to leave his post as king of the heavenly planets. You see, Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which I all hope you will read, says that ordinarily in Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, he doesn't talk to demigods or pay attention to them. Even when Brahma came to offer prayers, those famous prayers in the 14th chapter of 10th canto, after the Brahma Vimohana Leela, the bewilderment of Lord Brahma. Brahma offered all these prayers, but the acharyas point out Krishna, listening to Brahma's prayers, was thinking, these official prayers glorifying me in such an official and reverent way. What's he talking about? I'm just a cowherd boy. So Brahma finished his prayers, and Krishna simply smiled, didn't say anything. Brahma got the hint. I don't belong in Vrindavan. Time for me to exit. Indra received more of a response from Krishna because, number one, Krishna was thinking he's so terrified, he's about to drop his post. He's going to drop his service. Number two, look who he's got behind him. He's got Surabi, the ancestor of all the cows, behind him. And they're going to do an abhishek and give me the name Govinda, the protector of the cows, one who knows the cows. All right. For all those reasons, I'll talk to Indra. And Krishna, as I said, arranged so that there would be a solitary meeting. He didn't want to have Indra have to humiliate himself in public. That would be too much for Indra. So just see how Krishna is sensitive even to such a mixed devotee. Krishna made sure that Balaram wasn't around. Why? Because Balaram is seen by Krishna as his senior. And Krishna knew there's going to be an abhishek. They're going to do an abhishek for me, and I'll be embarrassed to have it done before my senior, Balaram. All these nuances are always there. So there you have the scene at the base of Govardhan Hill. Indra, before arriving, had gone to see Lord Brahma. He located Lord Brahma on Mount Meru. And because Indra knew, I've really blown it. I've tried to destroy Braj. What came over me? I tried to devastate the cows and the devotees, the Brajbasis who take care of the cows. Indra knew he was in the worst possible situation. So before thinking of approaching Krishna, Indra went to Lord Brahma, and Brahma gave him some advice. Brahma told him that, and Brahma told him well, Brahma was very careful. Why? Why do you think Brahma was careful? He's thinking, I already made my offense. Wondering, is this Baal Gopal really the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my Lord? I saw the scene on the bank of the Yamuna when Krishna and the cowherd boys were having lunch. I couldn't believe it. Is that really the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Let me make a test. I'll do some empirical investigation. And you remember, right? How, according to Brahma's time, he interfered. He confiscated the cows and cowherd boys. But from his standpoint, he changed his mind after 3 seconds. But on Earth time, it was 1 year. So have you ever decided, have you ever thought, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that? Even you reach for something and no. Someone offers you your 10th piece of pizza prasad and you reach for it and then, maybe I do want to be awake for japa in the morning. And so couple of seconds later, you change your mind. That's all it took for Lord Brahma to reverse. But it was in a year of Earth time. So Brahma was hesitant in giving advice to Indra because Brahma was conscious that, I made an offense just recently, not as bad as yours, but I did do something which I regret. Mhm. So it's Brahma who told Indra, I think you need to connect with Sarabi and have her accompany you when you seek out the audience of Krishna. So that's why Indra did it. Now, when Indra showed up at the base of Govardhan Hill, where Krishna was alone, Sarabi kind of came behind him because she was thinking, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I've got something I want to present to Krishna. I want him to be our Indra. I want him to be the real protector of the cows. I want him to be known as Govinda. But I'll let Indra go first because we'll see what happens. The acharyas also point out that uh, even the other demigods and their wives stayed away from this scene of Indra on his mission of repentance because they didn't know how this is going to turn out also. So all these factors added up to create a solitary scene in which Indra approached first with Sarabi in the background. So you see Indra's a complicated person. And why does he act with such pride? What about our pride? How do we see ourselves? Do we see ourselves as just tiny servitors of Krishna? Whatever good about us that may be there is simply Krishna's mercy. The credit all belongs to Krishna and his devotees. The blame all belongs to us. What in I have to say, what intrigues me about Indra is after he makes these prayers with brilliant tattva, science of the supreme, and then so humbly, apparently humbly, presents himself as being fallen and the offender. Down the road, he does it again. He gets angry at Krishna for Krishna's taking the Parijata tree, taking it from the heavenly planets. He had, the pastime. He gave a Parijata flower to Rukmini, who's very submissive and mild mannered. And Satyabhama didn't like that. Satyabhama is very fiery and feisty and for Krishna's pleasure. So Krishna said, "Oh, you're envious of Rukmini. I gave her a flower, Parijata flower from the heavenly planets. I'll get you a whole tree, a whole Parijata tree. Why just a flower?" So Indra was enraged. Why is Krishna coming to the heavenly planets and taking the Parijata flower and then a whole tree? Why? He's really got an attitude. He even considered that this Krishna is really henpecked by his wives. But actually, Indra is well known for being henpecked by his wife. But there's that Sanskrit term, aropita. Uh, what's going on with me, I see as happening in the whole world. So Indra is actually so dominated by his wife. So he's thinking, that's what's happening with Krishna. He's coming to my kingdom and taking my opulences. This is after he goes through the whole Govardhan problem, in which it seemed like Vrindavan was going to be destroyed. The cows, the calves, the cowherd people. So he's a complicated person. I'm really trying to understand him. And jumping ahead, Krishna's response to Indra's glorious prayers is kind of cool. Yes, he is merciful, but not completely, because Krishna knows he's going to do it again. So Krishna kind of semi accepted Indra's request. Please protect me from my pride. Please, may this never happen again. Krishna kind of gave him a yes, yes answer. Not from the deepest core. But Krishna knows how to deal with everyone. Yeyatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. As you approach him, he deals with you. So we're jumping ahead there. And by the way, one interesting detail is that when Indra is approaching Krishna at the base of Govardhan Hill, he notices that invisible to most persons' eyes is Garuda up in the sky, who's shading Krishna, giving Krishna shade by his wings as Krishna is there at the base of Govardhan Hill. So remember, we're dealing with the planet of the cows. Another point you can keep in mind in trying to understand Indra is he is aware of Goloka Vrindavan, but he doesn't understand it. And therefore, he actually asks for forgiveness in this way: I disturbed the cows and the cowherd people in Gokula, and therefore I caused upset in Goloka Vrindavan. In other words, he doesn't understand that there are no such upsets in Goloka Vrindavan. But Indra, not having a precise understanding of the spiritual world, thought that, yeah, I was rocked. I know I not only rocked the boat in Boma Vrindavan, but I caused the scene at the topmost portion of the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. I've really done it. He made a bad mistake, but he did not affect Goloka Vrindavan. And he simply provided in Boma Vrindavan, he provided an excuse for Krishna to bring his devotees closer to him. They all camped out, remember, under Govardhan Hill when Krishna was holding it. So Krishna used the whole situation to create a deeper relationship with the residents of Vrindavan. All the relationships, Madhurya, Vatsalya, Sakya, Dasya, all that was going on underneath Govardhan Hill. The cows became closer. The calves became closer to Krishna. So in that way, Krishna doesn't take Indra very seriously, although Indra does need to repent. Indra was banking on the fact that I'm dealing with Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm going to take shelter directly of him. He understood that. And he also knew that Krishna has unlimited affection for surrendered souls. I've got to take advantage of that. And he knows that Krishna is only controlled by his devotees. So Indra is thinking, I'm associated with some real devotees, so that'll be my in. Not that I control Krishna with my bhakti, I don't have it, but I've associated. I think I've associated with some bhaktas, so therefore I've got my foot in the door. So feeling very ashamed, Indra approached Krishna, and from afar, and he offers his obeisances. His helmet, Indra's helmet, is so famous for being so effulgent, but he's offering his prostrated obeisances at the feet of Krishna. And the effulgence from Indra's crown is like nothing compared to the effulgence coming from Krishna's feet. It's like comparing the light that comes from a firebug in the bright noonday sunshine. Indra's a famously effulgent crown was nothing. Sarabi, the cow, had also advised Indra, present yourself alone, offer obeisances so that Krishna will excuse you. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that eh, Krishna responded in a very, in a way you wouldn't expect. O king of the Devatas, I see that you have unprecedented affection for me. You've come to show mercy to me. I, who have committed an offense to you by stopping your worship. This is Krishna really making Indra feel ashamed. I'm the offender. I stopped your yajna, yet you've come to see me to show me mercy. So by this time, Indra's on the ground and his helmets are touching Krishna's feet. There's another reason why Krishna is alone and why Indra is glad that Krishna is alone. Krishna knows about his cowherd boys, that they're spontaneous and spontaneously they can sometimes utter curses. And Krishna was worried. My mates are going to be disgusted with Indra. I don't know. I don't know if I can control them. They may curse him. So better they're not around. So he sent the Gopas off somewhere else. And we already talked about Balaram. Krishna made sure he's not there because Balaram is senior to Krishna, and Krishna's feeling that I would be a bit embarrassed getting an Abhishek, which I know is coming, having that happen in Balaram's presence. So here we have Indra overwhelmed with shame and fear. Don't overlook this or pass over it in a very light way. This pride of Indra and then the shame and the fear. Just think about what Indra's gone through. First of all, with his own eyes. They say seeing is believing. With Indra's own eyes, he saw Krishna lift Govardhan Hill. He saw the powers. And then in trying to figure out how to atone for his offense, he went to Lord Brahma and heard more information from Lord Brahma. So he's experienced and he's heard. And he's about to give up his service from being king of the heavenly planets. He's had experience. He's heard through Shastra. He's going to beg Krishna in a very clever way. He's going to beg Krishna, don't punish me because I'm so dull it won't do any good. A real clever way of I deserve to be punished, but it won't do any good because I'm so stubborn. Therefore, don't punish me. It's a funny kind of surrender. But first, his prayers begin with such beautiful tattva. Your form is transcendental. Nothing about you is affected by the modes of nature. Nothing about you is disturbed by material change. This tattva is very important. And that's why Krishna book is so wonderful, because you get the Leela, the pastimes of Krishna, mixed with the science of the Supreme. This is why Krishna book is so relishable, both for the newcomers and for the oldest devotees. So when Indra is starting to offer these prayers of awe and reverence glorification, he's feeling relieved because he's detected that, well, it doesn't seem that Krishna's angry at me. Krishna looks naturally happy. So, okay, now it's time to pour on the praises. Obviously, his first mission is to get forgiveness for his offense. And you see, by offering these official prayers of glorification, which are all transcendently brilliant in terms of the science of the Supreme, Indra is then going to present that I was bewildered by your Maya. You see, your Maya. Indra's very clever. He's not Indra for nothing. It's an indirect way of saying, well, Krishna, it's your Maya. So, yeah, I was in Maya, but that Maya is yours. And so, therefore, I'm such an offender. But you, Krishna, are devoid of material qualities. You're free from the mixture of happiness and distress found in the material world. This doesn't exist in you. Indra is speaking correctly, of course. But he's got a purpose. He says, how could there exist in you the symptoms of an ignorant person? Greed, lust, envy, and anger, which are all produced by someone implicated in material existence. And these qualities, greed, lust, anger, and anxiety, cause one to become even more entangled in material existence. So, in this way, Indra is saying that surely you're not going to treat me based on anger. And it's true that Krishna has no friends and no enemies in the ordinary sense. In the material world, you have friends because you're feeling incomplete and you need others to rely on. You take the risk of going outside of yourself to have a relationship with a partner, spouse, friend. You have to venture out of yourself and take that risk that you could be mistreated, abused, misunderstood, disappointed. But Krishna never goes outside of himself. Everything is his energy. So he has no reason to have friends in terms of lacking something. And he has no reason. In other words, he doesn't need favors. You can't do Krishna any favors. But you can favor yourself by acting in a way that's pleasing to Krishna. So, no friends and no enemies. No one can produce any kind of fear in Krishna, except Mother Yashoda. But that's something special. But ordinarily, no one can produce any fear in Krishna. He has nothing to gain from friends and nothing to lose from enemies. So Indra is definitely pointing this out because he has a reason. He's teaching us the science of the Supreme, and at the same time, he's kind of mm, trying to shape Krishna's response. And then he points out that Krishna is the father and spiritual master of the entire universe, as well as the supreme controller, and that Krishna acts decisively to remove the false pride of those who think themselves masters of the world. So now Indra is getting closer to home here. Those who think they're masters of the world, you remove their pride. And then he puts it all out on the table. Even fools like me who proudly think themselves universal lords. Even fools like me quickly give up their conceit and directly take to the path of the spiritually progressive. In this way, you punish such mischievous persons only to instruct them. It's still Indra's at it. He's trying to shape Krishna's. Very brilliant. It's ingenious. You punish such mischievous persons only to instruct them. In other words, why not just instruct me and don't punish me? I don't know what kind of punishment I'm going to get. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out this thinking of Indra. I don't know what kind of punishment I'm going to get. But actually, Krishna, this pastime, this whole pastime of lifting Govardhan Hill, that's your punishment for me. He's expert, isn't he? If you want a defense lawyer, public defender, you get Indra. He can really twist and turn and all for his own purposes while still being a bhakta. I mean, he is a devotee. But a response of Krishna can be, look, Indra, I simply perform my activities for the pleasure of my devotees, not to break the pride of people like you. And Indra can then humbly respond, all right, that's true. You perform your activities for the pleasure of your devotees, not to break the pride of persons like me. And so that means just by your activities,
What's happening?
our pride will be broken by itself. We can't say that you broke our pride. Our pride is broken by its own expression. So even though you're lifting Govardhan Hill for the pleasure of your devotees, still there's a lesson even for a wicked person like me. Indra continues to be very self incriminating, accusing himself. I was so engrossed in pride over my ruling power, ignorant of your majesty. I offended you. Oh, my Lord, may you forgive me. My intelligence was bewildered, I admit. But please, I beg you, my Lord, never let my consciousness become so impure again. So this is Indra, and we'll end at this point here, and we'll try to continue because this shastric analysis of Indra's ego, his false ego and pride, is a massive subject because it's so huge. Yet at the same time, he's a devotee. So in effect, he's saying, with all this eloquence, in effect, he's saying, you shouldn't punish me because I am like an animal. The moment after the master has beaten the animal makes the same offense again. Instead, you should mercifully correct my bad tendency so that my animal tendencies don't arise again. Now, the acharyas point out that this prayer, or the verses of this presentation Indra's making, it's not done with a completely pure heart. Because Indra is just trying to save his own skin more than to learn something, more than to change. He just doesn't want to be punished, you know, like a little kid who will do anything to avoid being punished by the parents. Of course, Krishna imitates that in Damodar Leela. He doesn't want Mother Yashoda to beat him with a stick. She's got him, one hand of his she has in her hand, and the other hand she has the stick. And Krishna is doing anything and everything, as we discussed before, to get her to put the stick down. He's shaking, he's sobbing, his eyes are flooded with tears. But that's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indra's got material motivations. I just want to save my situation. I want to save my own skin. And therefore, his presentation is not coming from a completely pure heart. Why? What's the proof? We already pointed out. At the time of Krishna's stealing the Parijata flower, Indra forgets and makes the same mistake based on monstrous pride. So we'll stop there for this session, the wrap up of Govardhan Puja. Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill to please his devotees, but incidentally, Indra's pride becomes dismantled. And so, to conclude the whole pastime of Govardhan, we need to conclude with Indra. How is Krishna going to deal with him? How is the situation resolved, at least partially, for the present moment? I wonder how many of us have thought deeply about the madness of Indra. While at the same time, there's no doubt he's a great devotee. Otherwise, look, he can talk to Krishna face to face. So, any questions before we wrap things up?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Surit Krishna Das here.
Yes.
Maharaj, you very nicely explained about Indra being a devotee, but then pride takes the better of him in many instances. And in spite of continuing this offenses, should we say, he is still given a very important post.
Yes.
So how does one understand or reconcile this, Maharaj, that he's given a very responsible position as Devaraj, Indra. At the same time, he keeps on committing offenses at the feet of the Supreme Person. How do we understand this?
He's showing you how to be a mixed devotee. He's a mixed devotee. The demigods in general are devotees, but they're attached to power and control. That's why in the 5th canto, you read the demigods pray that if we have any punya, any pious activities, any good karma left in our bank account, so to speak, we want to take birth on earth. Particularly, we want to take birth in Bharat, because you can more easily go back to Godhead that way. They complain in the 5th canto that life is so materially opulent in the heavenly planets that we become distracted so easily and lose track of what's the real goal of life. So better to take birth as a human being on Earth. Indeed, better to take birth in Bharat. Then our chances for going back to Godhead will be maximized. So the demigods know that there's something better. Still, they have such immense power, and certainly we respect them because they have official posts they're managing on behalf of Vishnu. They're not managing on behalf of Bal Gopal. Bal Gopal simply plays a flute and herds cows and goes to the forest during the day and comes back to the village in the evening. But Vishnu is the cosmic maintainer. So yes, that's why I'm speaking about Indra. It's really quite interesting how here he is getting darshan at the base of Govardhan Hill. And Krishna's so kind that Krishna arranges to preserve Indra's ego. Krishna knows that Indra is terrified of having to give up his post and is even thinking to do that because of shame. Not because of humility, but because of shame, public shame. So when you start thinking about Indra and his situation, it's very interesting. It shows you the power of mixed devotional service. But as we pointed out, Krishna has other reasons for tolerating the situation, so to speak. Sarabi is there, and she's going to declare to Krishna, "You are our Indra. We're tired of these devatas. What can they do? They didn't protect us. You did. So you're our Indra. You are Govinda. And we perform an abhishek, bathing you with milk." We'll discuss more if we return to this subject. First, Sarabi started bathing with milk, Krishna, but Indra was in the background. He's still feeling ashamed and very scared. And so by that time, other devatas had showed up and they were prodding Indra. Okay, come on, come on. You can take part in the Abhishek. Get Airavata, because Indra didn't even bring his elephant carrier. He presented himself alone. He was, because he wanted to show that he was contrite, that he was full of repentance. So he came alone without his entourage. But by this time, after all the prayers recited by Indra and Sarabi, by this time, the devatas had showed up and they were encouraging Indra. Just see, Sarabi is doing the Abhishek. You can also do something. Have Airavata pour water with his trunk or hold pitchers of water, jugs of water with his trunk. And so then Indra started to participate in the Abhishek. But maybe we'll get more into that in the next session. Anything else? Madhuban Lila, you have your hand up.
Hi, Krishna Gurudev. Thank you for the class. I was just wondering, it seems as though Indra has something to be proud of. He has such an amazing kingdom and he's like in charge of so many different demigods.
Oh, you've forgotten already. Verse 4 of Damodarastic. Vadam Deva Moksha, the Moksha Vadimba. 3 types of liberations I don't want. All I want is that vision of Bal Gopal may ever remain in my mind, the core of my heart. I don't want the opulences of Indra are material. They're not listed in that prayer, number 4. The ranking of the benedictions begins with mukti, moksha, freedom from material existence, merging into impersonal Brahma. That's the basement, the bargain basement, so to speak, which is so difficult to attain. But there's no mention of the opulences of Indra. And then higher is vimukti, Vaikuntha liberation. And higher than that is the spiritual benedictions you can get by executing the processes of devotional service. Lord Kapila Dev talks about those in the 3rd canto Bhagavatam. No, not even that is wanted. What to speak of seeing and talking with Narayan, Lord Narayan, not wanted. Only one thing will satisfy. Only one thing will do. So you've got to, this is why it's very important for you to get the whole panorama, the whole comprehensive picture, so you can see how tiny material advantage and opulence is when you look at the whole package, the whole scheme of things in existence. This is what is so amazing about Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. They actually give you the whole panorama, the whole scope, so you can see how one thing relates to another in relative value. And then there's the absolute comparison, which is Goloka Vrindavan. Nothing compares to that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I thank you all for your kind attention and association. If you think I should continue with trying to fathom, trying to comprehend Indra's massive pride, as well as his extraordinary material position, let me know.
Yes, Maharaj.
All right. Hare Krishna.